A very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dhwani Mittal, your host for the evening. And on behalf of Torrent Pharma, I feel extremely privileged to welcome all dignitaries, delegates, and all the viewers who have connected with us on different platforms for this e-conclave, The Secrets of Digital Practice. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone for the overwhelming response we have received on the day one. We have received thousands of views and so many positive comments, leaving us excited for day two. Ladies and gentlemen, today, again, we have a very promising lineup of interesting sessions from eminent speakers. Without taking much of your time here, let me go ahead and introduce you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Sanjay Kalra. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a consultant endocrinologist at Bharati Hospital, Karnal, and also a president of Endocrine Society of India. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sanjay Kalra. Welcome to you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Dhani, for that introduction. And good day to friends and colleagues gathered with us from all across the world. Thanks are also due to Torrent Pharma for having sponsored this event and given us this platform to talk about digitalization. But what is digitalization? Dhwani belongs to this century. But for those of us who have studied medicine in the last century, in the 20th century, digitalization means this, the picture that is in front of you. Digitalization means the process of giving digoxin, which is created from the flowers of the plant called Digitalis purpurea, or the foxglove. Now, if this generation disconnect were not enough for us, Dr. Ram Prabhu and myself thinking of digitalization in terms of treating heart failure, in terms of treating atrial fibrillation, there's more to come. Now, in this slide, we are talking about the last century. But with this slide, with digitization, we suddenly go back to 5,000 years, 7,000 years. Digitization is considered by some to be a modern event, to be a modern technology. But exactly the same thing was followed 5,000 years ago in the schools of Sumeria in Mesopotamia. At that time, people realized that remembering things were not enough, so they developed the written language. And the written language was not developed, first of all, to create poetry or to create prose. It was developed to create simple things like numbers. Like, for example, to tell us, maybe in the medical practice, maybe how many patients had cough, how many had whooping cough, how many died of cough. This tablet from Sumeria is the first example of digitization in the world. And it would be nice also to understand that the schools of Mesopotamia so many years ago, so many centuries ago, were called tablet houses because they used tablets. The current generation, the modern generation, which thinks of digitization as converting analog into digital. And when you say the word tab, it means a tab that you use instead of a computer. They would be surprised to see that tablets were used so many centuries ago for education. We've seen this generation gap now. We've seen digitalization and digitization. We've seen the definitions changing. So in this transformation, what does digital transformation mean? From a health perspective, this is how we define digital transformation. It is a process. It's a process of using digital technology. Why do we use digital technology? To create and modify. What do we want to create and modify? We want to create and modify healthcare systems, healthcare delivery, healthcare culture. And this has to be done to meet our current challenges and needs. At the same time, we cannot forget that the center of our existence as the healthcare profession is our patient, is the community that we serve. So we have to use digital technology and digital transformation to enhance and to improve our patient and community experiences. This single slide not only defines digital transformation, but also transforms the way in which we think about technology. And in the next few slides, let me discuss how we think about technology. For me, first of all, technology is a thought. These thoughts have existed for a long time. When I published this comment 2 years ago, the term digital diabetology did not exist. But when you go on Google now, when you go on Google Scholar, you find so many articles, so many reviews on digital diabetology or diabetes going digital. So this thought has taken root. This is technology at work. But even a thought needs a trigger. And in current times, we have got a trigger from COVID-19. You can look at COVID-19 in terms of bad, very bad, or extremely bad. In Indian English, bad, badder, and baddest. But even these medical students from Gurgaon and Pune are able to find a silver lining in COVID-19. And that silver lining is COVID-19 has helped in transforming global health for the better. COVID-19 cannot do it alone. COVID-19 is a trigger. But once the trigger spearheads a thought, then one thought becomes a train of thoughts. And in this train of thoughts, we have multiple digital stakeholders. Of course, there's a healthcare professional. We all are healthcare professionals. We use digital technology. That's in our hands. How do we use it? But we should not forget that the patient and the community are also equal stakeholders in digital medicine. And the ecosystem that we are surrounded by, whether it is a financial ecosystem, a social ecosystem, or a physical ecosystem, this also has to be kept in mind. There's no point in talking about digital health and telemedicine if we do not have electricity or if we do not have good quality internet. Again, this slide may seem very modern, but let's go to the next slide. Our next speaker for today is Dr. Atreja, and a very learned man, a wise sage with a name very similar to Ashish's, Atreya, who is known as one of the fathers of Ayurveda. He propounded something called the quadruple of Atreya many thousands of years ago. What he said was to achieve optimal therapeutic outcomes. And let me repeat, to achieve optimal therapeutic outcomes, all four angles of the quadruple have to be equally strong. The physician, the drug that he uses, the patient whom he treats, that means the patient has to be empowered, and the attendant who is taking care of the patient, which might mean the family members, it might mean the paramedical staff. Look at this quadruple of Atreya and see how similar it is to the quadruple of digital health. For digital medicine to be effective, for us to transform it effectively and efficiently, we have to have a strong and empowered healthcare provider. We have to have good quality technology at our disposal. We need a well-informed and educated patient. And we also need an ecosystem which helps us. Now that we have understood the various stakeholders, let's see the domains of technology at work. When we work on digital technology and health, we need information. But remember that we have to control access to this information. We should be able to access whatever information we require. At the same time, people who do not need access should be denied such access. So privacy is a big issue. We need to be able to interpret what data we have. Interpretation can be done at the micro level. That means, for example, let's say Dr. Ram Prabhu is looking at a patient from afar, so he should be able to interpret a patient's X-ray and MRI. But apart from this micro level interpretation, there is meso and macro level interpretation as well. So you have to be able to analyze big data and see how you can use this intelligence to improve medical care. Along with information and interpretation, we also have to be able to identify our priorities so that we focus on actionable action that can be taken. So prioritization, good clinical sense, these work hand in hand with technology to achieve whatever outcomes we want. How do we work with technology? We use it as a tool. We use it as a tool for good medical care. We also use technology as a technique. This technique helps us when we are in trouble. So, for example, let's say I am looking at an MRI. I am not able to figure out what it is, what the report is. I am not comfortable. I can use technology to reach out to Dr. Ashish or to Dr. Ram Prabhu or Dr. Hema Devakar and get the best from them. We can also use technology as a theranostic device. Now, what does theranostic mean? This word comes from endocrinology, from my subject, and it was first used in the context of radioactive iodine. Radioactive iodine is a diagnostic tool for thyroid disease. It is also a therapeutic tool for thyroid cancer and for Graves' disease. So technology provides diagnostic and therapeutic benefits sometimes at the same time. When I fill up a questionnaire, maybe which is talking about my mood or maybe about my healthcare concerns, that's a diagnostic tool. But when I get the report back telling me that 90% of men in India and maybe 80% of men all across the world think exactly like me, that becomes a therapeutic tool for me. I realize that I'm not alone. So using technology as a tool, as a technique, and as a theranostic device helps us reach target. And the target, in very simple words, is good healthcare. In spite of all this, in spite of things being so seemingly simple, many of us doctors worry about digitalization. Not about the digoxin and the heart failure part. We worry about the modern digitalization. We tend to feel that modern digitalization, the digital transformation, is a man versus machine war. And finally, we are going to lose. We feel that digitalization is offering an alternative to our livelihood. But that's wrong, actually. We should look at digitalization as a man and machine collaboration. We are working along with digitalization, with digital transformation, to achieve the best for our patients. And this is going to help us augment our relationship with our community. The way forward would be for all of us to be digitally enabled. And this is what our speakers will talk to us about today. They will talk to us how we can move ourselves from the position of a gatekeeper to medical care, where more often than not, the gate is always closed, to that of a facilitator, where we can help our community, facilitate our community, get the best out of us. Our speakers will also help us move from apathic inertia or technology inertia to active innovation, to active involvement in healthcare and in digitalization. But let me sound a caveat here as well, and I'm sure all the clinicians gathered with us will agree. When we are at work in our clinics, we use all our senses. We see our patient. The gait of a person with osteomalacia helps us diagnose osteomalacia. We touch our patient. When you touch your patient's hand, you can very easily make out the difference between acromegaly and hypothyroidism. We smell our patients also. The fruity odor of diabetic ketoacidosis, that is diagnosis through the nose. We can hear our patients also. You can hear crepitus. You can hear crepitations. And taste, of course, physicians of olden times used to taste the urine. But even now, when you're anxious patient, somebody with anxiety neurosis enters the clinic, you can taste that anxiety in the atmosphere around him. So all these five senses are at work. In technology-driven medicine, it may not be possible to use all these senses. So we should practice caution. Remember that when you are undergoing the process of digital transformation, your first and foremost commitment should be to quality. So remember the CARE algorithm. Remember C for commitment to the patient. A for autonomy. Remember that you have to be autonomous. R is for relationship. Remember that your relationship with your patient is sacrosanct. Do not allow a third party or a middleman to come in. Ensure that whatever data exchange occurs between you and the patient is kept private. And E would be for expense. So if you're transforming to the digital world, do not increase expenses. Actually try to reduce them. So care, commitment, autonomy, relationship, and expense. If care is followed properly, certainly we will have better quality for our patient. What is the way forward? Again, we look up to our chairperson for today, Dr. Ram Prabhu sir, and our expert speakers to explain to us how we can continue using therapy by the ear, which is what we do in chronic medicine, and the stethoscope, which is what we use. Now, the stethoscope here is an allegory. It's not just limited to the stetho, but it would include every traditional innovation that we use, whether the ophthalmoscope, whether spirometry or echocardiography. How can we incorporate these or include these along with therapy on the cloud? So instead of ear to ear or face to face communication, now we have cloud based communication. How can we use all these together on the way forward to good health? To achieve all these, we need to understand the secrets of digital practice. And I'm sure that by the time we finish this 2-hour webinar, we would have embraced digital practice in a very practical and a very pragmatic manner. Thank you, Dhwani. And I'd like to thank everybody who is gathered with us in India and beyond for this opportunity to share my views with you. On behalf of the Endocrine Society of India, I wish everybody a healthy and a happy future, and best wishes for Eid. Eid Mubarak to all our brothers and sisters gathered across the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay Kalra, for sharing your insights. Indeed, a very informative session once again, like yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, moving right along, I am profusely elated to introduce our next global speaker, Dr. Ashish Athreja. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Athreja is Chief Innovation Officer, Medicine at Mount Sinai Health System, New York. After his medical school training at AIIMS, he has been in US for last 20 years and board certified in internal medicine, gastroenterology, and clinical informatics. By many, Dr. Athreja is considered as a father of evidence-based digital medicine. He has established non-profit global network of digital medicine to connect innovation centers worldwide and share best practices for digital medicine and telehealth. I request Dr. Ashish Athreja to kindly share his global perspective on digital transformation in healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Ashish Athreja. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dhwani. I'm trying to share my video. I do not know if that's possible. Or you are able to see that?
No, not as yet. Yes, we can now see the screens. Yes.
Okay. And I think the video is still not visible. It says because the host has stopped it. So I do not know if it's something from your side.
Let me Dimple or Amitraj, I request the host.
From here, it's on, sir.
Okay.
You have to share because we cannot see the video. If you click on the video and also enable the system audio as well.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Mic is fine. The system audio you can enable and try to play the video, sir.
No, this is my own video camera for my picture, but that's okay. I can just present without my video, my own picture. If you want, I can log in again. I'll let you guide Dhwani. I can go through the deck and then come on with the video if that's possible.
So we'll be able to see you, sir, and presentation is also visible. For playing the video, we can do this.
Okay, fabulous. So let's get started in the interest of time. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to see Dr. Kalra setting the stage and me following that. It's an honor to be here. Thanks to Torrent Pharmaceutical for inviting me and share the perspective for my last 10 years journey, which started in Cleveland Clinic with a web-based paging platform we developed, and now completely immersed in digital health at Mount Sinai Health System. So just very briefly about Mount Sinai Health System, we're based in New York, where the epicenter of COVID has been. It's an 8-hospital network. I serve as the role for Chief Innovation Officer in medicine there. And the goal is to really... Excuse me, should I continue?
Yes, sir. We are unable to see your face, sir. If you can start your video as well, sir.
It is preventing me from starting, saying it's logged by host. So I can stop and start again.
Yeah, that's fine, sir, because we would like to see you along with the presentation, if we can try.
Let me log in again. Sorry for this.
Dr. Ashish to log in. Please feel free to share your comments and questions with us. Dr. Ramprabhu will be happy to take them now, or if it takes time for Ashish to log back, or maybe during the question answer session. But I think Ashish is back with us. Yeah.
Right. So it's ironic when you talk about a technology session, there are technology snafus that happen. So let me share my screen. Is it all good? Great.
Yes, sir, all good now.
Fabulous. So our mission is to actually, at the Innovation Center, formed 7 years ago, was to start looking at all the different fields of digital medicine, we call it, and starting with app development to analytics and big AI. And a lot of our apps have now gone to 15 countries. We created a global digital medicine community. And our mission has been combining apps with analytics. And with the interface of supporting clinicians, we can deliver awesome outcomes. And what I would like to do today is actually give a perspective of how two things have happening in digital medicine, really democratize and demystify digital medicine for all of you. So even tomorrow, you can start actually doing something, whether it's a chatbot or a telemedicine, very nimbly. This is a network we have created. We call it a network of digital evidence in health, because very much like what Dr. Kalra mentioned, we not only need to implement this, but we also need to implement in an evidence-based manner. So the right technology touches the right patient at the right time to deliver the right outcome. And there's a lot of learning we have to do together in order to make innovation combined with the rigor of evidence-based medicine and really making evidence-based digital medicine so we feel comfortable prescribing it to our patients. We also have a journal where we publish routinely our findings, and a conference we lead every year in New York City. This year, we may have to go completely virtual just because of the way the New York City is impacted. But this is how we see the field of digital medicine. Very much like in medicine, we see biochemistry, anatomy, physiology. Those are the things which have been taught to us when we were in medical school. What needs to be at the core of foundational elements is now digital medicine, where all the fields like telemedicine, wearables, AI, augmented reality, voice, chatbots, biomarkers, and CRISPR, we need to understand that technology. And that can become a rubric of clinical engagement and population health engagement. But what are the specific examples which have already become mainstream? WellDoc was the first digital therapeutics that came into US market around 5 years ago. It was launched in 2011, went through a clinical trial, which showed by using, and this started the stage of CGM later on, by just monitoring blood glucose and providing a closed feedback loop between the patient and the clinician. In a randomized control trial, they showed HbA1c decrease by 1.2%. But not everything has to be an app-based. This is a fascinating study in JAMA, which showed just text messaging engagement can actually lead to 49% or 39% reduction in the smoking cessation rate among patients with coronary artery disease. So very much like what we as clinicians do one-to-one to a patient, if we digitize it in some degree and provide the rubric of continuous follow-up, we can scale from one-to-one patient to one to thousands of patients. And that's what the power of digital medicine is. You may have heard of AI, but how AI is getting used in many novel ways. One of those things is a computer vision, and this is an algorithm from Google, where they can take diabetic retinopathy and actually just from a computer, smartphone, and algorithm, they, with a very high accuracy with the program, can distinguish diabetic retinopathy versus not, proliferative versus mild. And that democratizes, because there are not many ophthalmologists who actually do routine screening, but you can now have a camera which can be in a primary care doctor or in an endocrinologist and you can actually do diabetic retinopathy scan very easily now. So this whole field has evolved now to call a field of digital therapeutics, and it is addressing many different diseases. And a lot of my work has been working across diseases to see which disease elements we can take, and actually those rational computer logic we can take to another disease, whether it is remote monitoring, telemedicine, predictive analytics, or digital therapeutics. And this is a slide I made 5 years ago. I never thought, to be honest with you, 2020 will be the year when everything will become mainstream. But thanks to COVID, this prediction which we had before actually is coming true, where telemedicine has become the predominant way of delivering care in US today. We are now supporting around 7,000 tele-video visits a day for Yale New Haven and for Sinai. But while we see all these things, the question is, how do we bring it to our practice? We call it reduction to practice and innovation to transformation journey, because we have to be evangelists in transforming our health system. But there are a lot of challenges there. The number one challenge is the problem of plenty. There's so many solutions out there. It's very tough to pick which one is the right one for our practice or our health system or any other organization. So a lot of our effort over the last 4 years has been to bring it all together. We call it a digital daisy, where all those different fields of digital medicine come together. And the goal is to provide this in a very unified manner to the physicians of various specialty. So they can, very much like prescribe a medicine, we can prescribe an app or a digital therapeutics or a chatbot directly to patient's phone. And we started building on this platform 5 years ago. 4 years ago, we actually brought it together and turned on the first platform where doctors can prescribe apps directly to patients. That got featured in National Public Radio. And now we have evolved that for COVID to actually put all the COVID pathways, the COVID chatbots, which I'll give a demo to you, patient-reported outcomes in surveys, appointment scheduling, all of those can be handled very nimbly within one ecosystem. And that is a framework which also has a lot of video education already embedded. So if you want to have a new diabetic patient, you don't have to have him watch a video. You can actually prescribe directly to their phone automatically and also follow them. Are they following with your blood glucose checks and blood pressure checks? So very much like what you'd like patient to do, you can digitize that in a care plan. And what we have done that, we have shown if you do the right way and the right physician is able to anchor that, you can increase patient activation to 92%. If someone just tells an app is there and download it, 6% patients will actually use it because they forget the name, they mistype the name. But really, if a physician comes in and they tell and prescribe directly on the patient's phone, 92% people get activated. And we have shown once you do that, you can get value in many diseases. We have shown 40% readmission reduction in heart failure using wearable devices. So where we have been able to take Bluetooth connected blood pressure devices and connect them with an app and shown 40% readmission reduction compared to Mount Sinai previous goals and 50% compared to national average. We've also done a lot of work with the American College of Cardiology to automate all the peri-procedural care and using cardiac cath instead of one point event, but actually using as a patient activation for their journey. So they follow much more rigorously once the cardiac cath happens with adherence to their medications and blood pressure control. So all of those things we need to bring together to map a patient journey. We have been able to do that and really embedding AI and machine learning into it so we can track which patient is responding, which patient is not responding, and giving them those nudges along the way. This shows a patient care journey around an asthma where they do not know what is a medicine which is for prevention and which medicine really they should be taking every single day. But by making a very proactive care plan for them, you can prescribe an app or you can prescribe a digital care plan. We are able to first have them watch a video, then create a survey where we can see if there are gaps in their understanding. Based on that, we can also give them a copay program, and we can also set up a telehealth call if that's needed. So you can then release to all 5,000 asthmatic patients for a health system, so everyone gets something of value, and they are following their own journey. And through the AI program, we can see where the patients are. so the relevant next steps is triggered to them. The same thing we're doing for clinical care, we've now advanced to do for clinical research. Just to give an example for inflammatory bowel disease, which is the area of my expertise, we have been struggling to recruit patients over 6 months, and we only recruited 16 patients. We turned on this platform approach for engagement. We were able to reach 1,309 patients at 8 a.m. in the morning. By 12 noon the same day, 510 patients responded, and by 5 p.m., 206 patients agreed to be enrolled into a trial. So now we embedded this for various clinical trials, including cancer and other trials. But really, I want to take some examples and show you a demo, especially how quickly we scaled it up for COVID. Around 8 weeks ago, COVID really started hitting New York City very hard. I was able to be one of the frontline providers managing COVID patients as well. But we did realize the need of rapidly reaching out to the patients. And this has been a mantra for our health system. Statement from our CEO: if our beds are filled, it means we have failed. We want to take care of patients at their home, support them through technology, because very much like ancient India, we believe home is the best place for care, but only if we empower the patient through the right kind of tools. So we got this mandate to actually support people with COVID, and we created a whole journey for COVID patients where we said we're going to be reaching out to patients right on their phone, because a lot of the practices have been changing and a lot of the media has been coming with conflicting reports. We did not want our immunosuppressed patients to stop those medicine, thinking they're more susceptible to COVID than complications of that procedure. And we turned on Rapidly Triage. So we launched a Stop COVID initiative. And this is a bot which recruits the patient and monitors the patient. And we built that within 5 days. We have now reached out to close to 1 million patients. And 50,000 patients we are monitoring regularly. So that is the speed and the scale. In my life, I would never imagine me touching physically 1 million patients in my entire lifetime. But through this digital touch, we have been able to touch and hopefully positively impact 1 million patients within 4 weeks. And that's the power what digital health can do. We have since turned on various initiatives. We have embedded telehealth and supporting multiple health systems in telehealth. Around 7,000 to 10,000 telehealth visits we are supporting nearly every day. We also created special programs for diabetic and for immunosuppressed patients for cancer and IBD to regularly monitor them and keep them safe during the COVID epidemic. And I'll show you an example. We are able to outreach the patient, teach them thousands, millions of patients at once. And you can do that as well by just clicking a button and uploading your patient's details. But then the patients can automatically triage themselves based on the COVID pathways. And I'll give an example of that. So very much like a nurse or a nurse practitioner may actually ask a patient, or you may ask the patient on a phone, we can actually mimic that with a chatbot experience. And then link the patient to telehealth as needed. But really what may be of very interest to you is all the data comes back into a registry. So you are creating a real-time registry for all your diabetic patients, all your heart failure patients, and you are able to track what is happening to them on a day-to-day basis. And this is a dynamic dashboard, so you can actually check the patients who are not doing good, can actually send them a message right on their phone. Or you can initiate a group webinar like this to all your 100 diabetic patients and teach them how they can really take care of themselves during the COVID epidemic. Many COVID patients you can see here, and you can actually guide them in their home care. And I think that is something we want to do in partnership with many Indian hospitals. And we have some engagement thinking with DMC Ludhiana in that space, if we can turn it on. Really, I want to summarize on this slide, but actually leave around 5 minutes or 2 minutes for the demo. Innovation gets the journey started, but really where it becomes real is getting the tools in your hand. So very much like what Dr. Kalra mentioned, you can feel the tools and the impact, and you can sense where they are going. But you don't lose your clinical judgment, but actually augment your clinical judgment and empower these tools more, so these tools can empower you and your patients. And really, we have to go beyond a one app approach to a platform approach, because things are being modified very fast, especially in COVID-related things. So you do not want one app which takes 3 months to change. You can take your digital care plans, which can be changed within the same day. So you're always current on that. And really, partnership is the key. And the bots I'm going to show you an example right now can be launched within a day across the world in any hospital. And then that's where the speed comes, but also affordability comes. A lot of the technology which was not affordable before is either zero cost or few cents cost. And I think that can empower us, and it removes the cost barrier. So with this, let me briefly see if I can show you a webinar, a brief demo just for 2 minutes. So one is I wanted to show you the COVID toolkit. So this is a live COVID toolkit, which we built within 2-3 weeks and now is being used, where you can actually send to any patient or multiple patients a whole knowledge information about COVID right on their phone. You just have to put the phone number and it gets sent. But what you can also do is use a mass message where you can import thousands patients list here and you can send them a COVID pathway or a chatbot. But what can a chatbot look like? I'm not sure. You may have experienced some chatbot in a consumer-facing site, either Amazon or something else. What I like to show is how we can actually have chatbots to help clinical care because they have all the clinical logic built into it. I'm trying to bring up my deck here to show. Give me 1 second.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just waiting for a video which Dr. Ashish Atreja is going to share with us.
The screen is getting locked when I share the video. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Now, I do have to mention, thank you for sharing such interesting facts with us, especially during the COVID crisis, how you're using technology, the digital platform to actually get in touch with your patients, informing them about the prospective health issues, which is brilliant.
Thank you. Let me see if this can come. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Fabulous. So in a nutshell, when we are able to prescribe to patients, thousands of patients at once, they get a deep link, and then it can automatically triage the patients based on their symptoms. And here we can modify zip code to a pin code. Based on it's a red, green, or yellow area, we can actually see their profile. On the back is an artificial intelligence engine, which is calculating real score of the patient based on their symptoms and based on their location, and then automatically changes the questions so it's relevant to the patient. And since the patient has entered these symptoms, it is asking further questions of the shortness of breath to turn on a triage algorithm. Does this patient need to get admitted, or can this patient be managed at home? It also looks at all the comorbid conditions the patient has, because we do know if a person has heart failure or diabetes, they're much more likely to get complications from COVID versus not. It also asks real time their fever and if they have a Bluetooth connected saturation or other saturation. And based on that, it also is able to refine the logic and then see if the patient has any other needs. And based on the patient assessment, it is using CDC algorithm to actually immediately launch a telehealth visit, for example, to a patient. And this telehealth visit immediately then can direct patients to you, and you can then hop on a call with the patient and actually assess more symptoms, maybe prescribing some medicine or keeping a close eye in some degree, or reassuring them or giving them warning signs when they need to get admitted. Now, when your telemedicine visit is done, all this data comes back in a dashboard. So you can track all your patients, and you can actually say patients who you saw in the telemedicine, and you can send them a notification. This is a new treatment or vaccine that has now become available, and you can actually go through that. And now if a new clinical trial is coming up, you can suddenly recruit patients into the clinical trial for COVID and non-COVID related symptoms. And this becomes a live registry for you to manage your clinical needs as well as your clinical trial needs. In the interest of time, I'll just take a pause here and really want to thank everyone for giving opportunity to present, and looking forward to very meaningful engagement at multiple channels for COVID and what we say the journey goes beyond COVID. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish Atreja, for the very fascinating presentation here. Thank you once again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with this, we have now come to the polling moment here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to flash a question on the screens, and I would request you all to kindly select your answers and submit in the comment box. So can we have the question, please? The polling moment, get ready. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So the question is, what are the significant benefits of digital marketing in practices? You can choose as many answers that you want to. It depends on your choice. A, enhanced reach and cost effectiveness. B is patient retention and acquisitions. C, customized marketing strategy. D, all of the above. So let's go ahead and see. What does the survey say, the polling moment here? There you go. We already have the answers. All right. So the A gets 20%, B gets 20%, C gets 20% as well, and all of the above gets 80%. Fantastic. Lovely. Thank you very, very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward now to a very interesting session, which will reveal secrets of digital marketing in healthcare sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Gates had quoted once that if your business is not on the internet, then your business will be out of business. So I feel this session is going to be really insightful and will leave us with a lot of learnings. Well, with that, let me introduce you to Mr. Dvej Wadhwa, who is the founder of Orange Health Digital. His key strengths include creating go-to-market plans, patient acquisition models, and lead nurturing funnels using an integrative digital strategy. Well, let me go ahead and welcome Mr. Dvej Wadhwa. Welcome to you, sir.
Hi. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'll quickly take you through my presentation today. To give you a brief, I've been working in the digital space for healthcare companies for the last 4 years. And we work with some of the leading hospitals, diagnostic companies, medical device companies, and even doctors in India. So the topic I'll be covering today would be on how digital, some key insights into digital that doctors and healthcare practitioners can follow for maximizing their returns online. So first is doctor websites. So we've worked on more than 100 doctor websites over the last 4 years. And, these are just some key insights which we believe that would definitely benefit doctors. First is, this is a complete checklist. Mostly when, you create a website, it's always for, your design is always focused on your desktop. But 90% of your viewers watch it on, visit your website from the mobile phones. So it's very important to ensure that, your websites are optimized for the mobile. Always, have a very minimal and, friendly UI design, user interface design. Right now, most websites are following modern fonts and clean images. So the time when you had websites, which were full of information, they don't exist anymore. Another thing is, you have, if you have patient testimonials and case studies, what we have noticed is that after the home page, the most visited page is a patient testimonial. So having patient testimonials on your website is definitely something that can benefit users. Most doctors we see, in the pursuit of ranking high, start stuffing keywords which don't really go with the natural flow of language. So the whole idea is that to avoid that, About Us page again is a very important part of the website, because patients, after they get all the information, the last page that you want them to visit is the About Us or the contact info page. So that is something that should always be there. Also, your website need to have a subtle call to action to encourage appointment requests. because that's where you will actually convert your visitor into a a lead, if you could call that. So this is the complete checklist that each and every doctor website needs to specifically have. I'll take you through a few things that we've always felt are the most important. Again, profile pages receive the most traffic on doctor websites. So, and most patients want to refer to the education, understand the background, etc. of the doctor before they actually sign up. So this is a very important page on the website, which the doctors should ensure that they are, clearly stating it out. It adds to the credibility, at least for a first-time user coming online. The second is another thing that we have noticed over the years is that having, it should not completely be professional. You should also have a human touch to it. So if you mention your, about something about your family, your background, your hobbies, some charitable activities that do, those that really helps in, creating a good perception in the mind of users. Another point is that most websites that when they come to us, we see that there's a lot of graphic imagery that is used of doctors treating patients, etc. Or some cases, patients don't want to see that. So always ensure happy photos without any graphic imagery. The next page on the website, which can really be optimized, is your service pages. So on your service pages, if you use keywords, which are local keywords, so say probably your treatment or your specialization, clubbed with the area or the city that you are functioning in, because those are the keywords patients search the most to get onto you. Those keywords, if you use them in your service pages, there's a very high chance that patients will discover you through when they search for you online. Service pages also require the average amount of information that you have on the service pages. So it should always be, as much as the patient needs. It is very tempting to kind of, tell patients everything about a particular service, but we should ensure that it only sticks to where a patient can, look into the whole process. Also, since service pages also appear in search results, a good hack is that you can include your a small part of your doctor profile, patient reviews, booking links right in your service pages. So you'll see a very high click through to those pages for the patients to actually call you or get in touch with you. Another thing is contact pages. So on the contact pages, something that I would like to point out, which is being used the most by patients, is if you can book appointments or you can connect with your patients to WhatsApp. Right now you have widgets available where it's just a WhatsApp button over there. If somebody clicks it, he automatically sends you a message from his WhatsApp, from his phone. Through WhatsApp. So that becomes a very strong channel to get in touch with patients and connect with them. So these typically would be hygiene factors for all the websites. From the point of view of creating a quick, good website, I have put across these 4 WordPress themes. You can share it with everyone at the end of the presentation. So the next time you want to build your website, you can just take one of these themes and speak to your, the developer agency that you're working with. If you're building something on these themes, it would be slick. It would be typically what you would require as a website, and it would cost you a fraction of what you would actually spend on actually going out and building a website. So these are 4 screens that 4 themes that we've identified that work the best for doctor-related websites. Next step is informative blogs. Blogs generally are used to answer commonly asked questions, and they talk about recent. So for a doctor, it's important if you can talk about recent medical studies, their views, how it impacts patients, personal stories, and regular updates about the practice. Tips or suggestions that can be given to patients to improve their quality of life. So these are the best performing blogs in healthcare. In India, there are very few doctors who are actually leveraging blogs very well. But globally, there are many examples of doctors who have been using blogs to, create mindshare in the among patients and the general community that they cater to. So these are the broad topics or the broad areas in which globally, influencers, write about and get the maximum number of clicks or virality to the content. This is just some tips on successful blogging. So a consistent blog post schedule will keep your patient base engaged. If you're going in for one odd blog once a while, that will not give you the results that you are expecting. Generally, your audience needs to be built over time. So you need to have like a consistent blog schedule, or you rather not do blogging, otherwise. Another thing is that we should always keep the blog format in mind. Healthcare in itself is, from a marketing point of view, is a very dry, subject. So you need to ensure that when you are writing a blog format, it needs to be very interactive. It needs to be crisp. You have to have subheadings, paragraphs with a few lines, read blocks of text. All these things need to come together for a successful blog that works. Also, imagery is very important, makes it a lot more engaging and interesting. If you want to kind of, add links, that also helps because, it gives a lot of credibility to what you're doing. Also, the best way to kind of promote your blogs is to share them on social media. That's exactly where you will start getting your mileage for your blogging. Sorry. Yeah. Again, I have given 3 great blogs that globally are very well recognized. So you can have a look at them as part of the presentation later on. They typically cover everything that I have spoken about till now. Next step is online reputation management. This is one area where we have seen a lot of doctors have not been able to match up to what the market actually requires. So, there's a saying that you can choose what information to intentionally share online, but you cannot control the conversations about you. So this is the core, or this is the crux or the base of online reputation management. The first step being that, your, I would say your conduct or, your practice should be top notch from that point of view. But obviously there are going to be slip ups and there are going to be conversations around you. But the whole idea is to ensure that most conversations around you are positive, because that's what defines a good online reputation management strategy. So reputation management in healthcare is very, very important, because it is the key component and a major influencing factor on a patient. Since health is a sensitive topic, the trust and the transparency is something that a patient would look for before he goes ahead and either calls up a doctor or goes to visit the doctor. So we have seen over the years how much of a role online reviews play. They literally influence the decision of a person to make an appointment or not. And most people seeing what other people are talking about you, and this just doesn't apply to healthcare but across industry. The perception is formed when people see good or negative posts. Your perception is formed accordingly. So reputation management in healthcare is very, very important online. Now, the next step that you come to is how do you track what is going on. So the first thing, you put yourself in the shoes of a patient. The first thing that a patient would do is he would go on Google and type your name. Now, so the best idea or the best way you can actually track what the user is seeing by actually searching for your name or your clinic name or your hospital name on Google and see the search results that appear. ideally a person would see your website or your profile on a Practo or a library, and then just scroll down to see where what all other areas have you been mentioned. Another way of actually tracking, so that's your Google search results. Another way of actually tracking where you stand online or what people are talking about you. So there is this tool called Mention. It is an inexpensive tool, and we recommend all the doctors or all the hospitals who work with us to kind of subscribe to this tool. Now, what Mention does is that it gives you regular updates about what people are talking about you on all online platforms. So, say somebody is talking about you on Twitter, may not tag you, but Mention would catch that and show it to you. So this is a very, very strong tool to understand how your online reputation is going and what steps you should take to correct it. Also, Practo Library over the years have become a very key part of your online reputation management, where users are now checking out profiles on Practo, even though they would directly call you from your on your website or through your Google cards, but they definitely go and read up about you on Practo Library. So you should regularly track your notifications on Practo Library. If you have these three in place, and you have a person who's kind of dedicated to doing this regularly, you will have a good understanding of what people are talking about you. These are just some interesting ways in which you can actually leverage your online PR. So one is you temporarily invest in PR activities. So high authority publications appear when somebody searches for you. So if you start with a 3-month PR or a 6-month PR, your quotes get featured in publications like Times of India or Hindustan Times. Now these publications have a very high domain authority. So whenever somebody searches for you along with your website and your probably other social media links, the links to these publications also appear on the first page of Google. So when you get featured by these publications, and this is what the user first sees about you, it gives a very, very strong positive perception to the user. So this is something, if doctors invest for a very short period of time, get 5 or 6 publications to feature you, you build your page for life, because these links will always stay on any search that people do about you. The next way to actually do this is also you need to ensure that you have a 12-hour response rate to all comments and reviews. So these would include your search engine results, your Google directory listings, social media, physician ratings, review sites. Ideally, if you respond within 12 hours, that's the best practice. Most top organizations today have pulled back the 12 hours to an 8-hour response rate, but a 12-hour response rate is what is recommended. So ideally, having a person who is only doing this job as soon as you get a notification, have a time fixed in the morning and in the evening to kind of respond to all comments and reviews. Another thing that really works is if you figure out a way to suggest to your patients to give positive reviews or testimonials online. That really helps build word of mouth. A lot of famous doctors you'll find, or a famous health institution, you'll find a lot of good answers about them on Quora. You'll find a lot of positive comments about them on their Google reviews, their social media channels, on Library, Practo. So these are genuine patients who actually come forward and spoken about the doctor, and it overall improves the rating. In our experience, wherever we have seen a push from the doctor to kind of get these reviews from the patients, that's where it has actually worked, because very rarely will you find your patients actually going online and giving positive review. So the next is for negative comments. If the patient is known, ensure your team calls them personally to resolve it. Once it's resolved, patients themselves, out of goodwill, take their negative comments down, or you request them for deletion. So that is that's how it. These are some very simple ways you can ensure that your ORM is working smoothly and you have more positive comments or more positive reviews than negative reviews online. Moving to the last part of my presentation. So we're discussing how videos could be leveraged. Now, there's always a dichotomy, blogs versus videos. So videos does come with a share of advantages over written content. Over the years, the attention span of people online is diminishing. You might see it yourself. The amount of time you were spending earlier on reading a particular piece, with time is coming down. So videos work in that way because they present more information in a given amount of space and time. Also, if you since healthcare is a bit complex, you can simplify your concepts through visuals. Any abstract language-based concepts very easily through videos can be simplified, and it is a lot more efficient and effective at getting to your audience. So videos definitely has a share of advantages over written content. The challenge is that you need to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Secondly, just like blocking video, creating videos cannot be a one-time activity. So you cannot expect to just one fine day create a informational video, go online and post it. Doesn't work. You need to have like a video schedule, or you need to have a video calendar, and you need to build audience for your videos. Also, videos even though it might people say that you can record a video on your phone, but there needs to be a certain quality in terms of no background disturbances, a good background, some amount of visuals on the side, a basic animation, etc. So videos requires a lot more investment in terms of time and effort compared to blog content. So before you jump into video work, you always need to ensure that you are able to commit to video marketing, or else your one or two videos a month or a quarter will not give you the results that you're looking to generate. Yeah. So now I'll just take you through how different channels work for video marketing, and a brief about what channel would benefit whom. So basis your strategy, basis your requirements, you can then select your channel to decide how to market your videos. So WhatsApp videos have the highest virality if the content is something that users do not know about, and if you're confident about that, WhatsApp is the best channel to launch your videos. Even from an audience building point of view, if you have a broadcast list of your ex-patients that you share regular, very functional information with in the video format, you will see a lot of, you'll see a lot more views and reviews that are coming on to your videos. So WhatsApp typically works in short bite form videos with high entropy. The next channel is Facebook. So Facebook has a Facebook Live feature, which Facebook itself also promote to its users. So if you're going on to Facebook Live, you'll see a lot of people from your Facebook page who are your fans. You would get notification to come live on your videos, and those videos then stay on your page, so you can also share them in the future, and can promote them also. Promoting videos on Facebook is the most cost-effective paid channels, and this is something that if you want to reach a wider audience, and you're not just sticking to a very small community. So Facebook Live videos can definitely be used to actually reach out effectively to your last mile audience in a very cost-effective way. The kind of content on Facebook or the topics on Facebook, can be very topical. They do not have to be very high on entropy. But I mean, if they're high on entropy, obviously it benefits. But even if the videos are very topical, it's absolutely fine. The third platform is YouTube. So YouTube differs from Facebook and WhatsApp. So YouTube is a long-term expensive channel to build. YouTube has its own search engine optimization processes, and YouTube generally you'll see longer format videos. So you'll see videos with typically starting at 3 minutes, going up to 10 minutes. That's like the sweet spot for health videos on YouTube. Also, the whole game in YouTube is about building a channel and not just putting your videos. So you need to have a long-term strategy. You need to have a content plan before you actually jump into YouTube. And my suggestion generally to everyone we work with is that always start with a Facebook video strategy. Figure out what is the content that is working for you. Figure out what is your audience typically liking. Then move on to YouTube. Just focusing on what has worked for you in the past. So this is how you could typically leverage videos online. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Divij Wadhwa, for the illuminating presentation here. Thank you very much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, let's quickly move on. The next session will cover key strategies to enhance digital practice, and the dignitary who will honor us as the speaker of this topic is Dr. Hema Divakar, who is one of the best gynecologists in India and practices at Divakar Specialty Hospital, Bangalore. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hema holds prominent positions within India and abroad. She was the head of FOXI and is also a technical expert with the Institute of Public Health, which is a Government of India initiative. Such an honor to have Dr. Hema Divakar with us. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome, Dr. Hema Divakar.
Thank you very much. Namaskar. Thank you, Dhwani. Thank you very much. Dhwani is such a lovely name, and I would start by saying that increase your noise level on the digital platform. That is Dhwani for us, which we urge all the doctors community to do. It was such an insightful understanding with what the previous speaker, Divij, said to us. Here in this session, I'm not only speaking, but I'm learning a lot, because he very rightly mentioned that the doctors community is really far less initiated into the digital platform. So what are the secrets of digital practice? The secrets are in the open. You are forced to redesign your practice and go digital because of what the disastrous pandemic of Corona has brought in. Well, that is a positive, because there are some strategies to enhance the digital practice, which has been well outlined by your own patients can look for you on the digital media beyond the geographic boundaries here, there, and there are so many options that were thrown just a couple of minutes ago. How do you walk the talk? Your patients will go there, look at all of those, and then search for you. And how do they get in touch with you? So reset, be patient, because this is an unlearning and a new learning experience, and you have to start with your new normal. You will agree with me. I'm an obstetrician, so I deal with women's healthcare space. So whether it's an online shopping or a cooking recipe or anything to do with, you see the new era. Many of our patients are far ahead, and the digital mode is their way of life. The healthcare system marrying to the digital system has taken a while. There is no longer that gap that is going to be permitted, because there are so many constraints now, both for the doctors and the patients, that they will have to get in touch with us virtually. Why were we not doing kind of reassurance, consultations, or whatever it be on the digital platform? KMC is Karnataka Medical Council. I'm from Bengaluru. So KMC, you see, he was saying that, if there is a lot of information about you in the Hindu, in the Times, there is some recall for the public, where it can be the reverse also. The KMC warns a doctor against online consultation. Well, this was way back, not very long ago, May of last year, because this was considered not very legal. Though people like me who are considered crazy within our peer group, because my age group is now looking at the digital platform, and therefore such webinars are becoming the need of the hour. Whereas the younger generation, both the patients and the doctors are well into that. I used to always think that beating the traffic, given the distances from where my patients come, their time and the cost, everything, if you put together, isn't it a wonderful thing that you connect with them through the digital platform? So telemedicine, of course, can provide the optimal solution, but there were legalities attached to it. It definitely would have made sense to reduce a financial cost where there are many, many occasions where you need not see the patient physically. And now in the technology era, many of us as doctors, if we introspect, reflect back within ourselves, this stethoscope is really becoming, I cannot say obsolete, that is too drastic a word to use. Yes, the touch and feel is there. The history taking is there, the examination is there, but many will rely on an ultrasound scan report or a laboratory report or something supportive to make a definitive diagnosis. So for routine checkups, for regular checkups, for this, that, and the other, for monitoring chronic diseases, there is such a scope to make use of the digital platform. So what did the COVID bring in with itself? It is a situation of a disaster where the Board of Governors from the telemedicine practice guidelines from the MCI as recently as 25th of March made this whole process legal and permissible so that more and more numbers can jump into the use of it. Well, have we walked the talk? There is so much change in behavior that is expected both from the society, the community, and the doctors. The society has to maintain, even the doctors have to maintain the social distancing, the masking, the repeated hand washing, the housekeeping, the cleanliness, and the repeated dusting, sweeping, swabbing, etc. With that, another new thing that is on new kid on the block for many of the doctors is how do we move ahead? How do we walk the talk in terms of the telemedicine space? Telemedicine will not solve all the problems of doing everything for our patients, but the advantages are wherever you can do it without exposing your staff to the viruses and helping by this mode also to declutter the outpatient setting in your own environment, helping to call fewer number of patients for a physical visit so that the staying home and not picking up the infection from the hospital setting, but still being able to get in touch with the doctor. Well, isn't that a wonderful thing? And that is what we have to institute. Healthcare systems that are invested in telemedicines are really well positioned to ensure that the patients with the COVID situation will still receive the best of the care, avoiding the unnecessary, avoidable exposure, and 24/7. Yes, many practitioners, as before, are ready to jump into this. So what are the possibilities? How can me as a clinician or a practitioner plunge into the option which has now been so proactively provided by the Board of Governors? We can choose from very many platforms, but believe me, many of the senior doctors, even today, will use their mobile phones so suboptimally only to pick up and make calls or only to send a message or no. But it has been an amazing experience that in the last 60 days, all of them have learned so much. So where there is a will, there's a way. So the telephone, video devices, the internet connectivity, they'll sometimes call the children to, plug in and help them for a matter or two. So there are so many mobile applications which can be into the mainstream of moving ahead with connecting with our patients. And the pluses and minuses are there in all the methods. Yes, the audio or your doctor is just a phone call away. That was the usual way of approach, and many doctors would not pick up the calls from unknown numbers, etc. It's convenient, it's unlimited reach, it's suitable for urgent cases, but non-verbal cues may be missed, and it's not suitable that for those conditions which require a visual inspection. For example, any skin lesion or an eye or a tongue lesion. My husband is an ophthalmologist. He is nowadays started getting many pictures of the close-up of the eye with a sty or any such thing which you need not actually arrive physically in front of the doctor to showcase what the problem is. So the test-based is another methodology which we used to in any case use for patients with pregnancy with high blood sugar, for example. It needs an intense monitoring of her sugar. So every day she cannot come and show us her sugar reports. We say, okay, just WhatsApp me or text me. Let me see how you're going. Maybe I need to change a little bit in your medication. So all of these are also one of the mode of reaching, but it's very difficult in a routine to establish a rapport with the patient. Yes, many times we used to say, send the emails or the reports on any which modality. Is just a one-way text report. There are again the pros and cons. So what I'm saying is there will be pros and cons in any of the methodologies that we use to reach our patients other than the in-person or a physical visit, but we need to walk our mind through carefully and see which works out to be the best option. Well, we at our own setting use a video consultation. This is closest to an in-person consult. It's a real-time interaction. Patient identification is easier, can see the patient, it's as if you're actually there talking to her, and all the visual clues can be perceived. So how did this patient of mine get there? So again, as Divej said, we have been publicizing very widely about the availability of video consultations at our hospital. Yes, the routine regular platforms are there, but we have our own hospital app into which there is a provision for video consultation. And how does it happen? The first opening page after the banner page clicks into a page which gives the names and qualifications of all the specialists. Suppose she clicks on my name, then she has the option, I'm available to her for an in-person consultation or a video consultation. If she clicks whichever, then it will give her the slots, as you would see in the last column on the slide. So she will pre-book the slot by selecting the time, and most are very familiar with the online shopping. So this is similar to that. If she clicks and this is a price for the consultation, she adds that into the cart and she mentions the purpose of her visit and the slot is booked for her. Immediately a confirmation goes, and she will also get an SMS alert on the day that she has to take the video call or visit in person. Either way, why we as specialists who take care of pregnant women have to bring this into more and more into the mainstream of our practice? Well, the recommendations say that, because if it's a 9-month pregnancy in which our patients used to see at least 8 to 9 times, maybe 10 to 12 times, now it is recommended that she must see us only on 3 occasions: when she's at 3 months pregnant, 6 months pregnant, and when she's nearly about to deliver. If you see the recommendation, this has now become the standard of practice. At the 4th month pregnancy, they say a phone or video consultation. At 6th month pregnancy, after the visit for the scan, it is again a phone or in person. So you will see in the visit type, this column, many times where it is suggested by the world recommendations from professional organizations that the pregnant patient is vulnerable. She has to better stay home and not make unnecessary visit to the hospital, but she will need to get in touch with her doctor. We will need to reassure her. We will need to sort the little problems that she has, and all that can happen on the digital platform. Especially in the COVID-19 era, if she is living under the same roof where somebody in her household has been tested COVID positive, God forbid, then her appointment must be deferred for 14 days. She has to just see the kick count of the baby, for example, but she will definitely feel better getting in touch with us on the video call, and also making a known to us whether she herself is developing any symptoms suggestive of COVID. In fact, if she just has a flu-like symptom, we tell her, hold on, don't come for the checkup, settle down, it may be a simple flu, but you need not see us on an urgent basis because we are available to you virtually. There are some guidelines which most doctors may be aware, and I'm not very sure, even if it has been told in some of the sessions yesterday, I would say that quickly I need to recap a few things, because once is not enough, because this is something very new that most practitioners are into, and both the patients and the practitioners have to get familiar with that. But once they're hooked onto it, it is the way that they would like to move forward, because it's so much more convenient and so much more cost effective and so doable and feasible in countries like ours. So the registered medical practitioners, as in any qualified doctor, is entitled now to provide teleconsultations in any part of India, and the same professional and ethical norms are applicable. The guidelines also say that the patient has to register with all the details, preferably not only the name, address, etc., but also the Aadhaar card details, because we don't want further legal problems with some person. This is a new thing, so we don't know what this will land us up into. So the consultations has to be treated same as the traditional in-person consultations. Professional judgment will be the guiding principle. Sometimes we can choose not to proceed with that. We say we can't make our decisions. It is in our discretion. You will now need an in-person visit. So that's okay. So it's not an all or none kind of a phenomenon. Then the consultation should begin by informing your name and qualification. Yes, the patient may have sought proactively to consult with you, and the prescription should contain everything that you would have done in an in-person prescription. Consent from the patient. It's an implied consent when patient initiates a telemedicine consultation, and explicit consent will not often be taken. So text, audio, video, patient identification. If you think it's an emergency, please do not compromise. Just call them over, because you have to limit your patients, but you have to also use your own discretion. Call them for an in-person. The first consultation is always going to be difficult. The first consultation on the video may not be a good judgment, but for follow-up, it's an excellent thing. The documentation, you have to maintain the document and digital trail, log record of the telemedicine interaction. Patient may have sent some reports and documents to be kept carefully. Prescription as required as an in-person consultation. In the emergency situation, you just give a quick method just temporarily, but counsel them to facilitate a referral or visit your own hospital. The healthcare education, again, there are so many preventive aspects that can be done, and as we were just told, it's an immense scope. Now, if everybody is jumping onto the digital platform, you have an ample scope. There is an 800% increase in people seeing the videos, wanting to update themselves. The health has become the key. The health is wealth has now emerged as a real adage, because they have recognized that it's important for them to take care of the health. This is again another screenshot from our own video consultation through our app. The patient already mentions the purpose of the visit and uploads all her report, which I would have seen in advance, and I have to just click on join the video call, and there she appears, and then we dialogue, and at the end of it, there is a pop-up of a prescription where I can enter all that I have discussed with her, what her complaints, what do I think were my findings, and what is the treatment plan, etc. And at the end of it, the name and the registration number appears. So what are the kind of drugs that I'm allowed to prescribe? There is list O, list A, and list B. List O is whatever could be available over the counter. List A is re-prescribed for refill. Okay, because it has a low potential for abuse. Somebody is already taking something, iron, calcium, you're giving her an additional prescription. List B is a follow-up prescription where patient is undergoing a follow-up consultation. So you very well know who it is, and what you're giving. So there are certain number of drugs which are allowed in that category. Can you charge a fee for telemedicine consultation? Yes, it should be treated in the same way as in person. As I've already told you, they pay, they add to the cart and pre-book for the teleconsultation, and they ask to join the call at the prefixed time. Did have medical legal problem. When we had in one of such webinars the medical legal consultant, he said, because this is so new, we cannot anticipate what kind of problems we will really get. The time will tell us. But when they do come back from the judgments given, they are the ones who are going to set the precedence, because in what way the judge will view what kind of a medical legal problem, only the time will tell. But you have to follow the guidelines and do your best. How to avoid the medical legal issues online? Again, we have mentioned already about the government authorized ID. Identify the emergency and don't refrain, because they may blame you that this doctor said, no, it's okay, you stay at home. That will not do. But provide a provisional diagnosis before you prescribe, and the prescribing list O, A, and B, and you should not prescribe the drugs from list C. Retain a copy of all these. It may come in handy anytime. Please do not share the patient data with anybody. That confidentiality is very, very important. And all the other legal issues, of course, will be similar to the in-person consultation. They have been published in the form of an amendment to the Code of Conduct, and any violation of the telemedicine guidelines will be looked as a misconduct. And the government has promised to start an online program. In fact, I heard that it has just been launched last week. So all of us who are intending to provide online consultations need a complete mandatory online course within 3 years of the notification. That's plenty of time. I don't think we should be taking all that long with so many webinars educating us. Just go for it. That should be the attitude. There's a little bit of difference between telehealth and telemedicine. Now we are offering the telemedicine or the connect with the patients much more often than ever before. But originally the telehealth, what we say, that a super specialist is sitting only in a metro. But for example, a cancer patient comes and he belongs to a remote village and he cannot come back to you again. So a remote consultation or a mobile eye clinic or a mobile van, which can click the pictures and send it to a central space where the real super specialists are available. We cannot clone them. We cannot replicate them in any nook and corner of our country. So it's a cascading model where the expertise of the super specialist percolates into a medical practitioner in the rural area. So the last 3 important points which I want to recap is, please, the same professional and ethical norms and standards as applicable to a traditional in-person consultation. Do not just bypass and skip the rules and behave as if it was a real face-to-face consultation. The same laws and rules are applicable, and the telemedicine practice guidelines are up on the websites released on 25th of March 2020. There have been no reason to revise them yet, but the course, the online course has just been started. So the time is here and now, and the person is you. Telemedicine is the solution to foster the right to healthcare at home, especially in the backdrop of COVID-19, which has come to stay. So many times recent past, we have been hearing, don't fight coronavirus, be friends with that. Learn to live with it. That means learn to live with all the associated changes that it has brought in with so we may be photoshopping and fixing the fractures, etc. We don't know what the future holds, but I must close with a note that many things may have faltered because of the COVID-19, but not childbirth. We are delivering many women with the due precautions, and it is ever so much necessary in this stage of pregnancy with so much mental stress as to what the future will bring. The UN has declared that 20 million births will happen in India alone in the next 6 to 7 months, because so many patients are already pregnant and ongoing pregnancies. So it is our duty to connect with each and every one of them, no matter in which part of India they are. This is about the essential services, not that the other things are non-essential. Yes, some elective issues can hold on, but how long? Seems real, isn't it? That for very long we have to follow the same norms that we have now somewhat gotten used to. So go green is what we used to say. Yes, we do retain the Go Green slogan, but we also would urge you to go digital. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Hema Divakar. I have to say those were very magical and inspiring words during this crisis when you spoke that, when you deliver, everything is fine. There's nothing to get worried about. And I think we need to hear more of such positive things. I think that was truly informative. Thank you very much for the very fantastic presentation, Dr. Hema Divakar here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's quickly move on. In the current pandemic situation, most of us are channelizing our energies to be future ready. We are striving really hard to adapt and to upgrade to new trends of digitalization. Our next session also focuses on how to be future ready. And we have with us one of the industry expert, Mr. Neel Mehta. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Neel Mehta leads the healthcare technology projects across the Adani Group, the second largest conglomerate in India. He is a multifaceted serial entrepreneur with over 8 years of experience in digital health, leadership, and healthcare innovation. What an honor to have with us Mr. Neel Mehta. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. Let me share my screen over here. All right, can you guys see me and hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I would like to thank Torrent Pharma for hosting this e-conclave and for Event Sculptors to coordinate this, bringing all the speakers together. I know all of you who are watching this, I'm the last speaker, I'm the devil before you can have a wonderful Sunday evening with your family and have dinner. So I'll make it quick. I'll conclude with what all the speakers have said, along with what you heard yesterday. So with the onset of all the challenges and the pandemic which we are facing, a lot of organizations are questioning, are we future ready? Are we there to have a solution where we can treat our customers, treat our patients and support our stakeholders? So starting with, we all are gathered in this room because we believe in innovation. We eat, sleep, breathe breakthroughs in technology. But, and we are pioneers because we are producing better outcomes. All of us today, we are spending our Sunday evening so that we can learn from each other, we can unlearn as how Dr. Divakar mentioned, as well as see some of the fascinating tools which, other previous speakers mentioned, especially Dr. Atreja, about how Mount Sinai Hospital is bringing AI-based chatbot and which is producing effective outcomes in the pandemic which New York is going through. But, like it all comes with a unique challenges on how to avail this and to provide quality and effective healthcare. Because tools are great, technology is great, but it has to be directly applicable to an organization or to a workplace where you are a part of. And, so that's the reason why the traditional healthcare model is no longer working. Patients is used to going to a doctor's offices and doing the things what doctor used to tell them. But it no longer is aligned with the new consumer market, especially the millennials and the Gen Zs, which are the next generation which is coming. They want all of that information, all of the understanding at the point of care, in a sense, at the fingertip, just like on a handset, just like on a mobile devices. So how can we overcome the current traditional models and move into the new effective models which can bring about a positive impact in our communities and in the future? Because, patients will no longer like what the doctors are going to tell them, because they have become so active in terms of taking ownership of their health, knowing what are the ways through which they can find critical information for their particular health challenge or for a particular condition. Days are gone when a doctor will prescribe a medication and a patient will go to a pharmacy and will take that same medication over and over again unless a doctor asks them to change it. But now the patients are questioning or even asking doctors, hey, I heard about this through my friend, or I took a second opinion over a telemedicine consult, or, one of my previous colleagues told me that this medicine is not helpful. So how? So rather than physicians become defensive, it is time for to be more collaborative, to talk to the patient, to listen to them. Not being in person, it's okay. As Dr. Kalra said, that touch and the sense of emotion goes away with the teleconsult, with the digital medicine. But at the same time, you still can provide your guided, effective knowledge into an effective patient care. And that's the reason why today's patient expects higher level of personalization. They want a personalized care, all the way from sequencing the genome to treating them towards their end stage cancer. Throughout the entire spectrum, you have to understand the patient's behavior, the patient's psychology, the patient's emotional well-being, not only just about the physical well-being, but also in what state they are. Are they facing like something like social isolation? Are they having anxiety? What are those things? Physicians today have to provide a more comprehensive, effective clinical care. And that's the reason, how all these digital health technologies, all the way from being telemedicine to being EMR to EHR to health sensors, as well as, AI and machine learning tools are enabling physicians and also the hospital and healthcare ecosystems to be effective. And also with digital health technologies, there comes the other nuance, the flip side of the equation, which is the cybersecurity. We all hear about the cases where some of the major corporates are getting hacked, the patient's data are getting leaked. So how, we can overcome those challenges while making sure that the clinical care is not impacted. That is the key. And, through all these digital health technologies, which are mentioned on the left side of the column, we are able to achieve what is mentioned on the right side of the column, such as all the way from diagnosis to home monitoring to keeping patients out of the hospital, as just Dr. Atreja mentioned, and also exploring new treatment and new protocols, which is the need of the time. And, with all this plethora of technologies available at our fingertip, if you just go onto an app store or a Google Play Store, you will see over 97,000 apps which are somewhere related to clinical, be it a health fitness tracker, be it a teleconsult platform, or whichever solution what you are looking for. So the challenge for us is not the lack of innovation. We are pioneers. All of us are like transformers. We are transforming the way we work in healthcare. And days are gone when it was just the way it was. We are changing every single day. But now we are faced with the next challenge. It's not about producing an effective technological solution, but it's about allowing people to overcome their inertia, overcome the resistance to change. For example, I like to have Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream every afternoon, and I know it can lead to, like in the future, diabetes. So how can I overcome that? Those are some of the things where, even though being a futurist and being a technology transformer, I know eating ice cream every single day can impact my health negatively. But at the same time, what are the ways through which I can overcome inertia? That is the challenge which clinical professionals, all the esteemed physicians who are on the call today, who are listening and who spoke before me, have to figure out how they can overcome the patient's resistance to change, and also have a digital technology to, foster that collaborative environment will be key. And despite all of this, only 25% of these technologies are being used daily. But things are changing. With the onset of COVID-19, necessity is becoming the mother of invention. Doctors are trying to scrupulously figure out what are the technologies that they can embed, they can install, they can deploy, and they can use on a daily communication with the patient population. And one of the big things is the technology must be portable, because if the technology is not portable, days are gone where you will be in front of your system 24/7 and try to use and leverage that technological solution. And some of the things which are kind of in the news, which all the health systems and hospitals are trying to implement, are telemedicine, a chatbot, as Dr. Atreja mentioned, as well as some of the home testing kits. We want to keep our patients out of the hospital, out of the health system in which we are working, while providing care at the comfort of their home. And so we are moving back to the traditional way of seeing patients and delivering care. And that is where the human-centric approach comes into the play, where we are putting patients at the center in a true sense. You can just go on Google and type patient-centered healthcare, and there'll be over 1.2 billion articles which are talking about patient care and putting patients first. But less than 0.01% of those platforms or those organizations are actually able to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And that's the way healthcare providers have to evolve in order to survive, sustain, and thrive in this COVID-19 pandemic crisis. And so how one can be able to do that? It's by taking an actionable data, understanding your population and your community in which you are working, in which you are seeing your patients, and providing credible channels for them to communicate. You as a physician, as a hospital executive, you have to filter out the noise. As I mentioned, there are over 85 to 90,000 apps which are out there. But how you can do that? You have to look into the clinical trials, you have to review the founding teams, and there are more than 10 different steps which you have to encounter to make sure that you are able to find a good platform which your patients not only love to use it, but will engage on a daily basis and provide you with actionable, insightful data. And, those tools must be patient-centric. It should not revolve around what is needed for the physician, but rather what is needed for the patient first, and then creating a dashboard or creating a platform which enables the physician or the group of providers to provide an effective clinical care. And that will onset into a more connected relationship with the healthcare provider, through which you can achieve your goals. The goal can be having a great patient outcomes, meeting the patient needs, discovering unmet needs. If you are serving a patient population where those patients are not even able to afford a 2-time meal, and if you see them and ask them to go to a nearby pharmacy and take a pill or take a medication which costs you over 1,000 rupees or even $2, they are not going to take it. They are just going to rather spend that money on having the next meal or to support their kids. So how you can enable and empower those patient population, and not just the Gen Zs and millennials, because those people are already tech savvy. Those people will go above and beyond to make sure that they are able to meet their needs and to follow the physician's interaction. So the challenge is the two spectrum: one, to target elder, people above the age 65, and one again to meet the needs about like for the people who are in the late 20s and early 30s. And as a physician, you can be in the middle of those population, and you have to figure out a way to serve not only one demographic population but to an entire spectrum, and then match their experience to the treatment protocols. So that way it's more empowering communication and empowering treatment protocols rather than just like unidirectional protocols. And to achieve all those things which other speakers have mentioned and what I'm just sharing with you guys, healthcare organization must do these 4 things which are very critical. We have to move beyond the traditional model. Days are gone when a doctor will just learn one-on-one at a medical school, see one patient and then treat one patient and then move on to the next patient. With more than 10 million people being seen by one physician, such a skewed doctor to patient ratio, we have to enable experiential learning where doctors are able to provide their treatment solution at massive scale. Look into educational systems, look into digital retail systems, with like one platform, you are able to target millions of people where you can provide, you can fulfill the needs, and you can provide your solution at the fingertip. So why not in healthcare? Or how can we create something like that in healthcare, but at the same time not losing the personal touch, which is key, because it's not one size fits all. And also we have to ensure that all these products, all these solutions.
Hello.
Hello.
What do you think, Dr. Arun Watson?
Okay, I'll continue. All these products and services enable coordinated patient care, because that is the key. As we learned about healthcare marketing with one of the speakers before, he literally talked about if you don't have a positive presence, if you don't have good 5-star ratings of your patients, patients are just going to leave. It's no longer that, if my mom used to go or if my dad used to go, I'm just going to that same provider. Things are rapidly evolving. And so that way you have to make sure that your patient care or your care is patient-centric. And last but not the least, which is a very key element to this entire transformation and for us to be future ready, is that we have to create an environment which is hospitable. It should feel like you are going to a 5-star hotel. It should feel like you are going to a resort. It has to be holistic. No longer it's just like a traditional prescription of a pill or a traditional way of just giving an injection will work. You have to include digital therapeutics, which is also a need of the time, and also to provide connected care at the patient home, through biosensors, through wearable devices, as well as through telemedicine. And all of this must be in one ecosystem where the data consumed on one platform is readily available on the other platform within microseconds. And the data is interoperable. That means you can share that data from one practice, from one ecosystem to the other ecosystem through standard processing, through standard way of creating that culture so that it's open rather than closed. And so that's one of the things I would say. Collective collaboration is the new future. A physician must consult with a nurse must consult with the attendant, and together they have to provide care to the patient. And that is how you can collaborate in true sense, not only just digitally, but also in person. And so before I conclude, and I wanted to be very quick and effective presentation because we'll have Q&A after this, and I'm happy to take a question. But think about this for a moment. I want to leave you with a challenge. That means, are we just going to stay the way we are, or are we going to engage in a difficult task of health change, both internally as well as externally, so that digital health technologies can be implemented to improve our patients' life, our people's life, so that we can become future ready? It is not an easy task, but it is doable. And there are leaders and champions who have already achieved that. So why not follow those protocols rather than reinventing the wheel? And so that way we can live a life like this, where all that information is available at our fingertip. We can fly, thrive, and dive across the cities. So, last but not the least, the future of healthcare is not about the technology, but it's about the human experiences, which this technology will enable us. Technology who is just remote, who is stale, will not work. Who makes us engaging, who makes us to collaborate, who makes us to think creatively will be the future. And so with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Neel Mehta, for those interesting insights. Thank you very much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we've come to the last polling question. Let's quickly have the question, please, the polling question on the screens. And I request you to kindly submit your views in the comment box. And after that, we move on to a very interesting session here, which is, of course, the panel discussion. Can we have the polling question, please? There you go. So the question is, the Torrent Pharma should organize more of such webinars on which of the following topics? You can choose multiple answers here. A, virtual clinic management, B, digital compliance marketing, C, social media, reputation management, D is robotic surgery, E, data protection and cybersecurity, F, all of the above. Let's go ahead and see. I'm sure you must have submitted your views by now. Let's see what does the survey says. There you go. Okay, so A is 50%, B is 0, C is 25, D is 0, E is 50%, all of the above 75%. Fantastic. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, moving forward to the last leg of our virtual conclave, we have a very interesting panel discussion. And I would request all our viewers to kindly drop in their questions in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, to moderate a panel discussion, we have with us Dr. Ram Prabhu. He is a medical director at Mukund Hospital, consultant at Hiranandani Hospital, Powai. I would also request all our panelists, Dr. Sanjay Kalra, Dr. Ashish Atreja, Dr. Hema Divakar, Mr. Divej Wadhwa, and Mr. Neel Mehta to kindly join us for the discussion. Let me now hand over the session to a moderator, Dr. Ram Prabhu. Welcome to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dhwani, very much. You've been wonderful. The whole thing which you have conducted, and we've had such wonderful, exciting and informative sessions from all our speakers, and I'm glad that I learned quite a bit today. And there have been a host of questions which have come from all across, and I see so many, I think thousands of people who have logged in. I really don't know the number. Probably you'll be able to help me with that. But I think the plethora of eminent surgeons, physicians and the industry specialists, there have been lots of questions. And if Dr. Ashish still there, or
yes, I'm here.
Dr. Ashish, hi, how are you? So there is one question about artificial intelligence, which you have sort of just touched upon, but can you just elaborate that artificial intelligence and how is it going to help us in the whole digital marketing, digital way the future is going to be?
Yep, happy to. In very simplistic way, artificial intelligence, many of us have been exposed to biostatistics when we were in medical school, something we love to hate. I would say AI is an extension with data science of the biostatistics, which can actually be very predictive. So you can have multiple applications of AI in nearly everything. And I'll give examples of that. So one application of AI is in computer vision, where there are already people using you can scan X-rays and you can predict it's COVID or not COVID. This is the same computer vision technology, which if you put on your Google phone a dog picture, it will automatically distinguish your dog picture from your family picture from your picture. So that's a computer vision part. The other part of the AI is what we call as machine learning, which is mostly data prediction. So based on the patient's response, it can actually predict the patient the likelihood of getting COVID or likelihood of getting complications from diabetes or readmission for heart failure. So you can actually predict which one you have to put the maximum kind of effort or not. So you can use in multiple ways. You can use in social media marketing, where you can predict if a person who has clicked on your website, is that person very likely to then convert into a telehealth appointment or not. So it's basically underlying technology for analysis, which you can use in multiple ways.
So you think in surgical fields also artificial intelligence would help? Because most of this the digital health will be pertaining to the medical specialties. But you think in surgical expertise also the specialties it would help?
Yeah, absolutely.
What way?
So there's an extension of AI where you can actually have augmented reality. Augmented reality can create a lot of data from the behind side, where surgeons can actually, through that, distinguish the blood vessels. So, for example, if you're doing a brain surgery and it's bleeding, you can use AR, augmented reality, coupled with AI to distinguish even fine blood vessels which are bleeding, even if the blood is all over, because they can map real time to imaging.
Oh, wow.
I am using AI for my polyp reduction during colonoscopy to see this is cancerous or precancerous or not.
Wonderful.
So there's a lot of implications of AI in that as well.
So you can actually see that real time happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. So there is one question which goes to across all the panelists. Post-COVID, do you think there's going to be a switch to normal in-person consultation, or do you think it's going to be a mix of digital consultation, telemedicine, teleconsultation, and in-person? So what's going to be the scenario in future? What's your prediction?
Can I, Dr. Ram?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course, Hema, come.
Hi. No, the thing is that the social distancing norms have to be followed, and any clinic, the sheer volumes that we deal with in many of the hospital settings in India are mind-boggling. So if we have to decongest, then necessarily those who need not come to the hospital should not come to the hospital. Many of the follow-up checkups, etc., has to happen on telemedicine. So for a long time, if we have to keep to all these norms, by default, there has to be a significant number of the patients who will still need a virtual connect with us. Yeah,
good, very good. Dr. Kalra, would you like to give your opinion about it?
I think I agree with Dr. Hema. I mean, and it's a very pragmatic approach which she's saying. At the same time, I would like to say that the times that we are in right now, these are extraordinary times.
Yeah.
So our response to healthcare delivery today, this month, next month, may change next year, and we don't know which way it will go. But when things return to normal, I think we should also things will return to normal. So we should remember that the traditional core values of clinical medicine, taking a history, doing a physical examination, ordering pragmatic investigations. First, you take a history, whether it's orthopedics or obstetrics or medicine. First, you take a history, then you do a physical examination, you reach a provisional diagnosis, and then you order investigations. You don't go the other way around. If you go the other way around, then you get stuck with incidentalomas, and you get stuck with the lesions that you find on your colonoscopy, which create a lot of distress, though they may not be, biomedically significant. So we must remember these core values, and we must instill them in our juniors and our colleagues.
You know, in a digital way, if you take the history, Ram and Sanjay, it'll be more elaborate, less time consuming for us. So they pre-fill many things and then come to us. That may be an exciting way to take a detailed history, because you see in the rush, who is asking the patient what, and so many things are missed out. So prior history, and nowadays, you know, we need the triaging for the COVID. So what we do is, tomorrow's schedule of appointments, we send her a Google form already. So she fills up all the, the travel history, the contact history, the occupation, this, that, and the other, and the symptoms also that she has. And at the back end, we sort out, no, these patients need to definitely be segregated. So a lot can be done at the back end. So let's start looking at the advantages of how much the technology can synergize with the way forward, and maybe this is the only time we'll be forced to do this. So let's do it.
I think what Dr. Hema says, Dr. Ram, is correct. So there is an advantage. Let's take for example, aspirin in pregnancy. There are there are well laid down indications for high risk and moderate risk women. Many times mistakes do occur in a busy clinic. So if you have a checklist, you are able to minimize those mistakes. The moment you see multiple risk factors, then artificial intelligence tells you that this lady needs to be on aspirin. But the other side also, Divej and Neil, they talked about patient-centered care. Now person-centered care is correct. Ashish knows that I've been in my field now for 2 decades. I still struggle with the definition of person-centered care. If any, it's actually very difficult to encapsulate. And when you talk about responsible person-centered care, then it's really, really tough. So it's all fine to be empowered and to be person-centric, but there are times when you need medical care. So everybody in obstetrics, routine antenatal care cannot be managed remotely. Everybody in diabetes or in gastroenterology or orthopedics cannot be managed remotely. There are times when you have to go to the hospital. What is happening in current times is, because of a mislaid emphasis on the fact that I am digitally literate, I am technologically literate, therefore no disease can happen to me. I am technologically literate, so therefore I do not need a doctor except as a rubber stamp for what I have decided. That is also equally wrong. If we say that the traditional Indian doctor was doctor-centric, that is wrong. We agree with that. It should be a two-way communication. But the same way, if any individual in Bangalore or Ahmedabad or New York says that I can manage without medical care, 100% of the time, that's wrong. So we need to strike a balance, and there will be times when you need to come to the OPD. This should be emphasized again and again.
This is in keeping with what we call a holistic care. It's always a blended care that we have to offer. And that is why we are saying that in the antenatal period, when we say that the guidelines recommend 3 visits, we're not saying that those with comorbidities, sometimes the patient is
might be
confused
15 times
whether she needs to come or not. So she makes a telecall, she checks with us, then we tell her using our discretion that no, you need to come. Then she comes. Okay,
that's
so
it.
Nothing can be all or none. That more than anybody else, we as medical practitioners know that there are no absolutes.
So fully agree, and it's good clinical sense, which is the way forward.
So I would ask Divej and Neil, what do you think are the challenges going to be mainly for India? When we are going to get transformed to digital world, what do you think are the main challenges? Neil, you can say first, and Divej, I can take second.
Sure. So one of the big challenges, and thank you, Dr. Kalra and Dr. Divakar, you brought up about a good point about how you can be patient-centric while going digital. And I'll address to that, but I'll first address to what Dr. Prabhu asked about what are the challenges India will face. So one of the biggest challenges India will face is about patient security, because unlike telemedicine platforms which are out there in US and in NHS in UK and Australia, we don't have any telemedicine platform which can reach to that level. Having all the encryption, being HIPAA compliant, and all that standards, meeting those standards while providing effective care. So that is one thing. I still see, not to the doctors who are on this session, you guys are like really amazing, but think about like a PHC or a remote CHC, right? Those doctors are still sharing patient information via WhatsApp, via text messages. And that is not the way we can go forward, because, patient data is very valuable and key, and patient has the complete ownership to that data. You have to get the patient consent before you can share it. So that is one. The second one is cybersecurity. Again, it aligns with what about the patient data is that we don't have cybersecurity protocols through which we can safeguard and secure that patient data. And third thing is about awareness. Patients still don't know that, talking to a physician is altogether a different landscape compared to talking to your friend or talking to your school teacher. Right. So those are the 3 biggest challenges which I foresee in India.
So Divej, do you have anything to add on?
Sure. So, I completely agree with what Neil mentioned. With data security has always been a challenge. So much so that a lot of the bigger hospitals also, I have seen, data being maintained on Excel sheets. So I understand, that we don't take our data seriously. Another thing that I feel is the big issue that I see is that the mindset is going to take a long time to change, and this is not just at the patient side, but it is also at the the medical fraternity side. So, I feel that our whole healthcare system is a bit more averse to technology. And I'll give you my personal example. So when COVID struck, I knew a week before that, that seeing everything how it's happening. So I prepared a contingency plan for a couple of the companies that we work with. That let's move everything to an online consult. Trust me, not one person got back to me on my email saying that, okay, let's do that now going forward. They were like, nahi, chalta rahega. To an extent, when the lockdown was announced, a week after that, people, my portfolio companies started adopting the system. So it took them 2 weeks to adopt. It didn't take patients more than a day to adopt. The minute we announced, okay, this hospital is going online, this hospital is going online, we had around 50 to 60, queries a day coming in for our online consult. So I believe that, online consultation is just the first part of digitizing post-COVID. There are going to be a lot of other steps that come on the way. And I think hospitals need to be open, or generally the healthcare fraternity should be open to kind of adapting to the changes faster. I think that is something that where I see a big challenge.
Since Divej, you are there, you talked about advertising, making website, making your profile, etc. Now, can you just tell me how much ethical would be that from MCI point of view?
See, every doctor today has a website. The thing is that if you're claiming things on the website, which you cannot do, or you are advertising beyond the guidelines, then it becomes a big challenge. But if you see today, most doctors have a very simple website, which is just listing the information that you have. If you want to contact a doctor, that is the kind of information that you have. So I think from the guidelines point of view, a website doesn't violate it. But if you're using the website to market or actively market yourself, then it does come in the gray area.
No, exactly, because I can understand that. But in case if you upload a video, or you can show some kind of surgical skills that you have, at the same time you give your contact number and your email ID, etc. So does that make that it is an advertisement? Are you soliciting patients coming to you, or what way? I mean, there is a gray zone, of course, and there MCI may not be clear about this because it's a new thing.
Right.
So if somebody has some views about it, I would like to share that.
Yeah, Divej, one other gray zone that we see is people misrepresenting themselves.
Yeah.
So let's say we won't take the names of any of you've taken the names, of course, in your presentation, but you find people presenting themselves as endocrinologists, as diabetologists, using degrees and diplomas that are not recognized by the MCI.
Absolutely.
And this creates a lot of heartburn. And you find some of these commercial companies actually, you talked about ways to increase your leverage and increase your your visibility on the media, but that is misused more often than not. And you will find in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, the wrong people, the pseudo endocrinologist listed right on top. So where does that responsibility lie? Of course it lies with the guy who is misrepresenting himself, but isn't the platform also to blame?
So Facebook and Google have very, very strict guidelines for healthcare marketing. So if you go and read about the guidelines that Google has for healthcare marketing, there you'll come up with a list of hundreds of drugs that you cannot market online, hundred of things that you cannot do in your communication. So you can never claim that you can cure a disease. So there are a bunch of guidelines, but the thing is that we always find a way around them. So as you rightly said, I have seen that dubious claims, BAMS doctors calling themselves some preventive cardiologists and things like that. So I come across all that, and I also work with a lot of them myself to kind of promote it. But it does exist, and there are the responsibility clearly lies with the company and the doctor who's
okay. Fine.
Ram, I want to say something about what Neil said in his somewhat closing comments, that this is no longer an era where the Khandani doctor continues to be a doctor for the entire family. The newer generation is really, really trying to seek information of who could be the best for them from all the digital sources that they can. That is the trend, because that will be mostly totally unconnected kind of patient. And then if somebody is as Sanjay said, who's not even, really doing the things and showcasing, and you are not wanting to say anything about yourself, then not seen, not heard, and you're nowhere.
So it's like this, we have been used to, the seniors amongst us are used to not getting questions from patients, and now they will have to face these questions.
Yeah.
They have to update their knowledge all the time, and they have to upgrade themselves. And that is something which needs to be learned by the next generation, because everything is online, everything is available, all the information, and they have to be absolutely upgraded. Now, there are quite a few questions about legality of this digital. Since telemedicine and teleconsultation is pretty new in India, we are probably scared too much about giving digital or teleconsultation. Do you think, Dr. Ashish, or can you guide us that is it the scare that we have which is unjustly sort of thought of, or you think that legality has to be really something which is a serious problem in teleconsultation? Dr. Ashish?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question. It's very relevant. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
So it's something amazing has happened in US with COVID. We predicted telemedicine become mainstream around 7 years ago. It never became mainstream because states were defending. So if I'm in New York, I cannot actually do telemedicine in New Jersey, where I live. It was so strict. With COVID, the government actually abolished all that. So for the first time in the last 20 years now, I can provide telemedicine all over US. Now, India at least doesn't have that state boundary. In fact, based on my MCI degree in India, I can actually provide telemedicine in India. My internal wish is to become a global IBD doctor. Anywhere in the world, anyone wants to see me, I'm able to do that within the right framework. So some countries have a framework where I can provide direct care. Some countries I'll have to go through a physician and provide a care to that physician who is taking care of that patient. So coming back to India, all these, I think COVID is such an interesting thing that we can actually say there is no other way to provide care for 70-80% of population than telemedicine. And the way it is expanding, we will have a choice to make. MCI will have a choice to make of letting people die because of lack of care or guidance in their homes or wherever, or making telemedicine open. So US government has completely taken the HIPAA law, which was 20 years law, abolished that, or at least made it non-mandatory right now. So we can, if we can't find a good telemedicine resource, we can do WhatsApp, Facebook, which I could never imagine can happen in US. So I think the same will happen in India, that either people will start doing it and no one will raise objections, or government will just say, hey, it's fine for now to do it. And then the new normal will set it, where they will say this based on the experience, we do not think there should be barriers as far as you comply with these guidelines.
So going further, Ashish, can I ask you now, all of us are going to be global doctors, global physicians, okay? So in case if I consult a patient from New York, or you consult a patient from Mumbai, then what country is it going to be legally catching you in case there are problems?
Right. So country to country is slightly different. So within country, you're totally okay because your jurisdiction is completely covered.
Yeah.
But even if there's an Indian patient of yours and the person now is in New York, you may have to look at US guidelines, and you may have to go through a physician in New York to do your consult, unless until the person does it on their WhatsApp or something. So I would say country to country is still tougher. You have to go through legal boundaries. But within a country, nearly everyone has full liberty now to practice telemedicine.
But
Just tell me,
can I
Ashish,
just...
now, one second, ma.
Yeah.
I just want to continue with Dr. Ashish.
Yeah.
So Ashish, you have been having teleconsultation for last 7 years. Now, how many do you think the percentage of legal problems that you've come across in those 7 years? Do you think that there are quite a few numbers, or statistically it is absolutely not very relevant?
0 for me, and 0 for most of my peers as well.
Yeah, so I think probably it's an overkill here. We are too much thinking about legality right now. That's what I feel. Of course, there is something which we need to look into, but at the same time, I think we must try to see the patient first and see because every doctor would be looking at the patient's care. He doesn't have any other malice in his mind. So So we are going to be treating well. So we need not be worrying too much about the legal aspect of it at the moment, because we are absolutely infant in telemedicine and teleconsultation. So I think we can go ahead with patient help, patient consultation, and also treating whatever the norms that are. These guidelines are also are restrictive to doctors. At the same time, they are allowing us to do lots of, there is a freedom to doctors too. So Hema, sorry, you can go ahead. So thank you, Dr. Ashish. Yes.
Sure, absolutely.
Hema, you were saying something?
I think
Dr. Hema? Is she muted?
Can I just add while we wait for the doctor?
Yeah, please go ahead, Neil.
Sure. So, as Dr. Ashish mentioned that, like, for him, it was like zero, any other legality issues over the past 7 years. And a lot of Indian doctors, are afraid of using teleconsult and telemedicine because they are thinking, what if my patient does X, Y, or Z, or what if my patient complains to the district or to the state courts? So one of the things through which you can overcome this challenge while following the national, like ICMR guidelines or MCI guidelines, is to empower the patients, to well inform them that, hey, this is a digital consult where some of the preliminary or primary clinical consultation can be provided to you. However, I have not seen you in person. So these are some of the things which you can do over the next 2 days. If something goes the other way or if something goes south, please call me again. While you kind of tell them and guide them through this process, you will avoid those patients coming back at you frustrated and maybe mad at you. So that is how you can have a two-way communication and utilize this platform and leverage this to see more patient and to provide the care during this crisis.
And Neil, if I can add on to
I'm sorry. Yeah, Ashish.
Just one thing, not only the patient education part, which is so good, but also we have learned there are certain use cases which are so relevant for telemedicine and certain use cases when you should have caution. So a lot of the stuff. So I think Dr. Hema also mentioned that, if a person you really don't feel comfortable, that you haven't got a chance to examine that person or is in critical stage, you should always be able to tell that. So as far as you put that right framework, you're not stepping out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely. Yes.
And so I think patient education and provider education for the right use cases, if you couple them, that gets a best practice rubric to do it very nicely.
Yeah, this rubric actually, Dr. Ram, includes not only hard skills, clinical skills, but also communication skills. So suppose, let's say as a physician, I'm speaking to somebody and I feel the patient has unstable angina, acute coronary syndrome. Now there are many ways of putting it across to the patient, especially if you're remote. So one way would be to say, I'm very sure you're having a heart attack, you're going to die. And that's not a nice way. That's not a way which anybody would want to listen to. Another way is there can be many diagnoses, but this is one of them. Why don't you find someone to do an ECG for you, and why don't you find the nearest healthcare provider? So we have to learn communication as well.
So Dr. Hema, sorry.
Through your channel, through Ram, I want to ask one question to Ashish. Ram is the moderator. See, Ashish, I wanted to know your inputs about already existing portals like the Second Opinion. They're doing like very, very well. So that is beyond the geographic boundaries. There are so many people asking so many things, sending reports, and I think the kind of patient flow into the kind of portals like that, which have been existing for quite a while, how did they come into being, and what is their status?
So first, the laws for asynchronous communication are different than the laws for synchronous communication.
Yes. Absolutely.
So telemedicine. So telemedicine, which is synchronous, has slightly more higher standard than asynchronous consult. In the consult, at least I can tell about in the US, when we get those requests, typically it goes through a primary care physician or a physician who is already seeing them. So we are providing, and we put all the disclaimers out there. Based on what we are saying, this is what our best scientific advice is. And this goes to the physician, not to so what these companies do, they have a layer of physicians. Patients come to them, those physicians put it, and then it comes as advice from them. And then there's a question whether we need to get additional tail insurance for that or not. So those companies cover some of the insurance as well. So you have to provide those level of, I would say, disclaimers and guidance and a physician-to-physician consult, which is less liable to litigious practices.
So Ashish, it looks like all of us consultants here also need your consultation. Would you be charging us for that?
Happy to. I think this is a great opportunity for us to do something collaborative. I mean, we are talking about collaboration between patients and physicians. I think we should do some collaboration, and there are a lot of channels for funding as well. So we can create a framework which empowers all of us.
So I think we should ask Neil and Divesh to help us to get across globally, so that each one help everybody. Ultimately, the advantage will go to the patients. Patients will be beneficial because of this. But I think we should have this channel. This is a great thought, and I think we should open up those through torrent, maybe. There are some questions to Neil and Divesh that he talked about the 5-star experience, the patient's experience in the good environment. It's a clinician and the staff experience, etc. How does it really matter so much nowadays, or it is probably a virtual idea?
Yes, that's a great question. I definitely am a strong believer that it matters. For example, I'll just give you an example. You walk into a restaurant and there is a bad smell and the chefs have like dirty hands. Would you like to eat there? Most likely not. And if you go to another restaurant and if it is clean, they're following the standard hygiene practices and the chef is like from a learned chef, has a certification and a degree, you would rather pay a little bit more to get that quality of service. So the same thing goes for the hospital systems and healthcare systems. I'm not talking about, the PHCs and the CHCs, which are in the, remote locations in India. The transformation over there will take years, but maybe faster. But I'm talking about like the tier 1 and tier 2 cities in India, where, hospitals are mainly focused on their bottom line, how much they are able to get from the patient that particular visit or that particular, inpatient care or, through that surgery or anything like that. How much can I make? Rather than thinking, what can I make from that? That is all, of course, important to generate revenue so that you can sustain and grow. But at the same time, having a balanced approach that, hey, let's say if I'm making 100% revenue, I would rather give back 20% to my hospital framework so that I can create a welcoming environment so that the patient feels comfortable, safe, grounded, and in a very humble approach, you are able to then ask questions to them. Patients, when they walk into a clinic or when they walk into a hospital, they know that my doctor is going to see 100 patients today. I have less than 1 minute to share across all of my information. And guess what? What happens is when the patient actually goes and meet the doctor, they are just fumbled. They don't know what to say, when to say, like why to say, what happened the last episode. So when the environment is welcoming and approachable, you can have more meaningful conversation with the patient. And that's why that physical ambience also matters significantly, like how we care about the physical ambience in other areas of our lives.
Yeah. Neil, we teach this in diabetology and endocrinology, and we call it creating an illusion of time. So if you're a good endocrinologist, and let's say you have 3 minutes or 5 minutes, you should be able to touch multiple points in the patient's life history, past, present, future, multiple points in the present, maybe the patient himself or herself, the family, colleagues, school, work, right? And within the patient, again, multiple points, like not only biomedical, but also psychosocial. Within biomedical, one question on neurology, one on cardiology, one on maybe genitourinary system. So this is actually called creating an illusion of time. And this is part and practice of, this is part and parcel of endocrinology practice.
Okay.
So thanks for raising this. Yeah.
Within 3 minutes, you'll be able to get maximum information from the patient. Is that so?
Whatever time you have, you maximize it so that the patient goes back feeling that he or she spent 20 or 30 minutes with you.
Okay, fine.
Yes, but
I agree with Neil about the fumbling bit. They just often get little clustered.
Yes. So that's part of it. So just like, let's say in this webinar, if one of us is stuck, the other person comes in to help out so that it's a seamless experience for the audience. Similarly, in the OPD, if you see somebody fumbling with biomedical history, you talk about psychosocial stuff. You just move on to something that the patient is more comfortable with, and you take threatening aspects of endocrinology, which might mean genitourinary, for example. You take them later on in the course of a discussion or a conversation.
So, Divej, one question. Now, you talked about creating a blog, etc., etc. Now, how safe or legal is it to use social media for your so-called advertisement?
So, creating a blog, as soon as it falls in the ambit of patient awareness, patient education, it is not really an advertisement. So, I mean, from that point of view, yes, it is legal, I would say.
No, not legal, but then how much can they use? The doctors can really use Facebook, Twitter, everything, what have you, all those social media platforms or
Yeah.
tools which they can really use. Is it okay?
Yes, yes, absolutely. In fact, how as Dr. Hema mentioned earlier, that now the new generation of doctors are, the winners over there, or the star doctors are going to be people who are, very much active online. I have seen practices, where I would say cosmetologists or dermats have actually got smaller celebrities, given them treatments for free, only to tell them to talk about them on on Instagram or Facebook. So celebrities having followers in say millions say, oh, I visited this particular doctor and she did this treatment. Automatically in a span of half an hour post that, we get 150 questions on Instagram saying that how much does it cost, can I come see you. So the whole idea is that I mean, it works, and it definitely, I think that's going to be the future, because there are a lot of doctors who have leveraged it and climbed up the ladder much faster than they would have otherwise.
Though, Divej, I would like to say that as a senior physician, I would like to counsel my younger colleagues. Everybody has a different set of value systems. These values are internal to you. Do not do anything that is discordant with your value system. Everybody has a different definition of success. So this particular thing about treating celebrities free of cost may fit into maybe my value systems, but it will not fit into Ashish's value systems. So that doesn't mean that Ashish is wrong or that I am right. So keep your value systems at the center of whatever you do and work according to that.
So even within the value system, say for example, a lot of doctors now, to kind of be visible in the community, are actually just taking very genuine steps to come on to social media and talk about different conditions. So especially if you look at the probably the gynac space, so PCOD is something which people were never talking about earlier. Right, today everybody knows. You'll find a lot of young girls who have been diagnosed with PCOD, exactly knowing what is going to happen to them. What are the issues that they are facing. They're getting, because there are doctors or there are gynacs who actually come online and have started speaking about exactly what the concerns are. There are Ask Me Anything sessions where you're probably shy to go and talk to a doctor, but people are asking you on your live sessions on Facebook or Instagram. So the point is that even within your value system, no matter how broad that is, these platforms, I think, are fine to kind of reach out and have a conversation with your patient.
Just to make all of you happy.
I don't think Divej is a doctor, is he? Yeah. Divej, are you having a medical background?
No, not at all.
No, so even he knows about PCOS because of social media.
Okay. So, see, I think all the speakers and the panelists would be very happy that there are more than 4,500 people who have attended these sessions. And I would like to take the last quick question and answer from all of you, starting from lady, because she's the only lady here, the gynecologist, senior most gynecologist. What do you think? How do you see yourself 5 years hence? Are you going to be obsolete, or are you going to be with the digital world, and are you going to be taking this full on the digital? And how is the world going to be?
Not going to be obsolete for sure.
Okay.
Not going to be obsolete, that's for sure.
What
okay,
about,
we will find our way around everything, whether it's corona or no corona, kuch na kuch to karte rahenge.
Okay. And you think the world or India is going to be changed drastically in next 5 years? What do you think so?
No, actually, just on a serious note, see, I was just mentioning to Ashish in a private conversation that I'm really totally hooked on to the digital space, because having traveled right across nooks and corners of the country for some teaching and training programs and the CMEs, etc., it's really not enough, because we need to bring things to scale. And I found the digital platform the only way where we can cross geographies and make history. And there's so much that can happen. So in the last 2 years, the capacity building program, the awareness program, the Google Forms for research, and this, at a cost of 1 rupee, as to just do the video consultations, just to review the reports, etc., so that they just come onto that line. And so all of these actually, nobody was willing to hop onto this track of mine, because consider the only odd one out trying to do so much. But now I'm telling you, in the last 60 days, all are the teaching programs, the digital assessment, and today we had a managing committee meeting of our parent organization, the first time on the digital platform, everything. So it's a total shift, which is, as Dr. Kalra said, it will have its negative points, because we have to be mature enough to recognize that everything has the pros and cons. But there is a lot that it can offer, and we have to take the positives and move on.
So do you think, Dr. Kalra, this is going to be a very important subject in the curriculum of undergraduate or postgraduate studies in medical schools?
Yes, certainly. We cannot ignore it. And the more we talk about it, the more we understand what it can do for us, what it cannot do. The final take home would be good clinical sense, but associated with good technological sense. So we should be able to use whatever available technology is in the best way possible. And the way things are moving, what technology we think is state of the art today will be obsolete tomorrow. The technology will be obsolete. We will not be obsolete, provided that we maintain flexibility and we keep pace with the changing times.
So you think? Sorry. Go ahead.
I'd like to commend Dr. Hema Devakar. Actually, from an endocrine society viewpoint, we have always looked up to Foxy's initiatives in the digital space. When she was president, she actually went out of the way to spread endocrine awareness for us. And now we are also doing it, and we find that there are so many things that we can do. On Twitter, we have quizzes. On WhatsApp, we have quizzes. We are able to connect with each other through these various platforms. Torrent helps us in many ways. So we are learning, we are evolving, and there's no chance of being obsolete.
So, Dr. Ashish, do you think in next 5 years, artificial intelligence is going to compete with our intelligence? Who is going to win?
I don't think so. It's going to be competition or winning. I think Vinod, who's one of the prominent VCs, Vinod Khosla, says that what technology will do is upscale us. So if a nurse can do probably a job of a more like a RMP. An RMP can probably do the job of a primary care doctor. A primary care doctor can do more subspecialty. It empowers all of us. I think technology is just a tool. It's just lying there, including AI. AI is not the robotics we see in the films. It's actually a tool out there for data science for us to harness. So I think people who will enjoy harnessing that, people who have a mission to create more value as an extension of their clinical practice, are going to find it a natural ally. And they're going to use it in a way that even technologists may not have dreamt of.
Okay.
So I see the future is, and starting from present in COVID, is empowerment. And empowerment not only for us physicians, for our health systems, but also for patients and family members. And technology is going to be the one that's going to orchestrate that empowerment.
Absolutely. So do you think, Divej and Neil, you find a great opportunity for Indians in next 5 years through this medium?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Neil, okay.
Oh, go ahead, Divej.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, over the last 2-3 years also, since Geo has come into the picture, the technology adoption has anyways been higher, outside of healthcare. On the internet, you will see a lot more traction picking up on the vernacular side of, content consumption. So I feel that, yes, for India, it's going to be a big opportunity in the next 5 to 7 years of, how online can be used to build scale. So you might be sitting in one part of India, but you can actually cater to a very large part to which healthcare never reached. So I think that is going to be a very, very big gameplay that's going to happen. In fact, even Geo for that matter, 2 years back, I have seen the product Geo Health. They were building something on that thing. I don't know where they are right now. But from a concept point of view, I mean, if that works out, the whole idea is that, everything that you need in health comes onto one particular platform. And, with the patient at the center of it. I think yes, it's going to be a big opportunity over the next 5-7 years.
So Neil, and all of us know that there is a huge scarcity of paramedical staff, the nursing staff, the technicians, etc. Do you see that this can probably help us build up the whole battalion of these paramedical staff, or probably those technicians which we badly need in big hospitals and even in small hospitals too? So Neil?
Yes, I would correlate to how United States have overcome the challenge of like having physicians. They crafted new programs where now instead of becoming a physician, which takes about 8 to 10 years, you can become a physician assistant. Or if you want to become a registered nurse, but it takes 3 to 4 years, you can have nurse practitioner, medical assistant, like that. So rather than having a long journey of like 10 years long, where a lot of people get demotivated, get sidetracked, family issues comes, whatever it may be. Our government, it is the need of the time and the demand of the situation where, we have to create a new alternative, medical education where someone can graduate from school with experiential learning quickly so that they can work under super expert specialists or like Dr. Kalra or Dr. Divakar, and also get trained while seeing patient. Days are gone where you can just like study in silos, like just the medical education, just become a physician, just see one patient, 100 patients a day, and then go home and spend time with the family. Now there is the need, there is like the way where you have to collaborate, where you have to convene rather than being a disjoint fellow. And also at the same time, there has to be an incentive. Medical education, the only incentive in medical education right now in India is the more patients you see, the more money you make. But whereas if you look at other developed nations like US, where they have evolved that incentive to value-based care, right? Keeping patients healthy, keeping patient out of the hospital, keeping patient out of the health systems, and then making more money, and which kind of gradually takes you to a whole sustained healthy economy, which will produce great results for the centuries ahead. So that is how we can grow the medical system in India.
So we are running short of time, Ram. I'm holding this to make sure you allow me to say.
I didn't see your finger. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
from the last 10 minutes, because I want to say what I want to say.
Okay. You should be holding 2 fingers actually. You're a gynecologist.
Okay. Okay. This is on the television shows we asked to do this. So that's why. So no. The capacity building what I was talking to you about, the paramedics training, what you said, that's a skill transfer. The practical training. In the last 22 days, every single day, 2 batches for the nurses of all maternity homes in the entire state of Karnataka. We flooded them with what they have to do in their own premises to keep in line with the COVID situation. So that was a skill transfer program. Similarly, through Foxy, there is another initiative called Manyata, which is for quality training for safe deliveries. So the nurses in Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, and Maharashtra, about 1,500 hospitals in all. The training has happened from our center in Bangalore.
Fantastic.
Okay, so it's a short kind of a course, but it is totally skill based. They have to actually perform. So we want to formalize this whole thing into something in a blended manner that they can do. But this is already going on, and I think this empowerment of the next cadre of healthcare providers, the frontliners, has made a huge difference. Though 1,500 is seemingly a big number, we have to do 50,000 hospitals, and we have to train 1 million healthcare providers for delivery process alone, because there are 30 million deliveries per year in India. So that is the kind of number game that we have to match. So the task is immense, but it's doable.
So I think that gives me a pleasure of getting a great information and fantastic talks by eminent speakers from all across the world. And I really thank all of you for spending such a time today on Sunday evening. And you'll be surprised and happy that there are now almost 5,000 people who are actually logged in, and they have heard you for last 2 hours. Mind you, on Sunday evening. That's not easy. Unless you just bind them to the screen, it's not easy to have 5,000 people across. But I think all the lectures have been phenomenal, informative, exciting, and I think there's a way which is going to be future of India. COVID has been a very bad pandemic across the global, but there are certain positives which have probably come, and this is one of the positives, that is digital world, and that has really opened up the Pandora's box, and we must sort of partially be happy about it, not about the COVID, but regarding this side effect or good effect of it. So thank you very much, and Ashish for spending your Sunday morning from New York, and all of you for spending your Sunday evening. And I would also thank Torrent for such an excellent webinar. We look forward for many more in future, and I think it will also empower us also. Hema, you would agree, Dr. Kalra, you will also agree, and Divej and Neil, because this is a great industry and the physicians, surgeons who have interacted together. Thank you very much for everything, and I'll hand over to the organizers, Dimple, yes.
So, Dhwani.
Dhwani, the volume.
No, I said organizer. Dhwani, you are the face of it. Dimple is the back.
I still want to thank all of you. I want to interrupt.
Sorry, I don't want to take your credit.
So, wow,
Thank you so much, Ram.
Truly enlightening discussion here with so many takeaways. Now, I want to mention something here. We've been getting overwhelming response. We're getting so many questions, but because of the time constraint, we are unable to answer all of the questions here. But it has been a very, very successful e-conclave. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to our moderator. Thank you. It has been absolutely fantastic. A great success of the e-conclave secrets of digital practice in healthcare. We really appreciate you all joining us and for the time that you have given us. Thank you once again. But before we conclude, I would like to now invite Mr. Rajkumar Sethi from Torrent Pharma for the vote of thanks, please. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. A very good evening to all. Today we witnessed a wonderful and insightful discussion on the theme, The Secrets of Digital Practice. It's indeed a great honor and privilege for me to offer the vote of thanks on behalf of Torrent Pharmaceuticals to all our eminent speakers, moderators, panelists, and our wonderful participants. I would like to thank one and all present here for making the two-day e-conclave, The Secrets of Digital Practice, a mega success. Already we have seen today itself, there were more than 5,000 participants for the event. For today's session, a special thanks to Dr. Sanjay Kalra, a special thanks to Dr. Ashish Atreja, Dr. Hema Devakar, Mr. Divej Vadva, Mr. Neil Mehta, and Dr. Ram Prabhu for giving us their valuable time and sharing their vast experience with us. Your deliberations will surely guide us and many in their medical practice. We have been hearing about about creating an environment for digital India since past few years. By chance, COVID-19 has taught us the digital way at a much faster pace. Usage of technology and digital medium has somehow made our lives easier and safer. It has also enabled us to deliver qualitative output and also has helped us save our time. Although we are coming towards the end of this conclave, we assure you that Torrent will always be the knowledge partners and will be there with various initiatives to empower the medical fraternity. I once again thank all of you and hope your support for Torrent will continue in the days to come. So today we are signing off, but with an assurance to meet you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you once again.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. Are we live?
Yes, sir, we still are.
Oh.
Thank you once again to all the speakers. We really appreciate your time. Thank you to Torrent Pharma. It was indeed wonderful to have your expert opinions. There's so much that we've learned, and I'm sure in future too, we will get such opportunity. Thank you very much on behalf of Torrent Pharma. Thank you to all the viewers. And indeed, in future webinars, we'll get to answer all the questions that have been put across to all the panelists.